dispatch, I'm arriving.
Something happened, causing the vehicle to veer left into the parking lot.
He had actually been shot in the face.
The most serious crime that we could ever prosecute in our office.
Not knowing just made me feel helpless.
It doesn't get much better than after the crime, an individual looking directly into a camera.
"51-year-old Jorge Rodriguez is planning Independence Day celebrations with daughter Darlene. But she has a special reason to take it easy.
I was pregnant, and I didn't always feel well.
No, esta noche no.
Ok, no te preocupas.
Now, I know it's 4th of July and everything, but the last thing I want to do is go see fireworks.
No. Ay, mija, qué precioso.
Amber showing him the little ultrasound, and he was so happy.
Para qué buen salud que será un varón.
He's like, it better be a boy.
Jorge is father to 3 girls.
Family was just everything to my dad. He was just always there for us. I was asking if we needed anything.
When I think of my dad, I just think of like someone really caring and loving.
My dad was a field worker, picking apples or picking cherries, just depended on the season. Everyone loved my dad. My dad was always that person that wanted to help you. His smile was just contagious.
Jorge needs groceries for the family celebrations.
Mira, iba a cocinar algo comer. ¿Querías algo que te vayas?
He told me, I'm gonna go to Fiesta Foods. It's a supermarket here in town. And pick up some stuff so I can cook dinner. And I was like, okay, I'll see you later.
Ciao.
Bye.
This is 911. Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, some guy just got shot in the face or something like that. One on Lewis Street.
Okay, and what happened?
He's running right now. He's bleeding. I mean, he's stopping traffic, and I don't know if there's something wrong. Okay, I got it. We'll get somebody dispatched over there.
It was July 4th. There's always 1 or 2 injuries related to fireworks on a night like that.
20 dispatch, I'm arriving. 15 Lewis.
So it's not uncommon to get a call where we're assisting our Pasco medics.
Officers, what happened here? Sir, you shouldn't be standing. We're going to get you some medical attention, okay?
He had obvious significant injuries to his face.
All right, hang in there. We're going to get you some help, okay?
It became clear right away to me that it was not fireworks. Instead, he had actually been shot in the face. At least 1 time, if not twice.
All right, what's the ETA for the medics?
A couple of minutes away.
All right, hang in there, sir. Help's going to be here soon, okay?
Someone called me with my dad's cell phone, and they're like, is this Darlene? I think your dad just got shot. Got in my car and I drove over there.
Who's this?
Please, that's my dad.
Yes, I can't let you.
Please,
Sorry,
I need to see him.
The victim's daughter arrived on scene and was obviously very emotional.
That's my dad.
I know this isn't easy. Please, let the medics celebrate.
I was just in utter shock with the whole thing. I was crying and screaming.
She told us that the male that we were dealing with was her father, Jorge Rodriguez.
I need to see him.
He needs medical attention.
The police officer was holding me back.
No, you don't understand.
My dad's right there. He's like, I'm sorry, you cannot go over there. He was holding his cheek like this, and he was telling me, like, to calm down.
Paramedics rush Jorge to the nearest hospital.
We have such great medicine and good hospitals and good doctors, but I've seen people get much less severe injuries and die from them.
Dad got shot.
Got the phone call from my sister, and she was like crying hysterically.
What's happening? How did it happen? You know, like where? What was he doing? It was hard to believe at first.
We're gonna go to the hospital. I'll meet you there.
With Jorge in a critical condition and unable to speak, police must piece together the events of the night without him.
Everything's chaotic at that point. So my job and responsibility is to gather that information, filter out the irrelevant things, and get just the most basic details that I need.
What kind of vehicle was he driving?
Jorge's daughter had been able to tell us that Jorge had been out in his black Cadillac Escalade and had been driving through Pasco.
Yeah, I saw a car take off. It actually took off.
One of the males that was at the scene told us that Jorge said his vehicle had crashed, and he pointed eastward down the street from where we were standing. I was able to follow a trail that Jorge had left on the pavement with his blood and walked a couple of 100 yards east to the Los Pinos parking lot, where I found the vehicle his daughter had described. The vehicle had crashed into several parked cars and through a fence that surrounded the restaurant. As I'm walking up to the Cadillac, I noticed a bullet hole in the rear driver's side window. And I noticed inside of the car was covered in blood.
Watch out for the blood here.
Where's it coming from?
Over here. So he crawled out of the...
Veteran Pasco detective Jesse Romero arrives at the crash site.
The fact that the vehicle had blood inside and that it also wrecked, your natural progression of facts would be that whatever happened in the vehicle caused that vehicle to wreck. So more likely than not, somebody got shot inside the vehicle. It went into like a embankment, so the wheels of the vehicle were off the ground. They were not having traction. The time of day was almost 11 o'clock. It's more of a commercial area. So we didn't have witnesses there. We started observing the entire scene, looking for cameras.
At the Los Pinos restaurant, there were 2 surveillance cameras that were covering the parking lot and pointing north toward Lewis Street and the intersection of 14th and Lewis.
Our first instinct is hopefully to capture the incident.
Romero, this is Jose. He owns the place.
Jose?
Detectives call in the restaurant owner.
The owner of the restaurant, Los Pinos, arrived.
Are your security cameras working?
We informed him what had happened. He mentioned that he did have video.
Let's go.
He escorted us downstairs to where his security cameras were. We're trying to see if we could see Jorge's vehicle.
Can you start from 10 p.m., please?
Cameras can paint a very good picture of what actually took place before we arrived.
That's the SUV. Play it again. Can you switch to the second camera, please? Play it again. He's lost control. Switch back to the first camera.
Something happened, causing the vehicle to veer left into the parking lot, and then it wrecked.
It crashed into the fence line and then came in contact with one of these cars in this used car lot that was next door to the restaurant.
Rewind. Zoom in.
You see an individual exit the vehicle on the passenger side. You see our driver exit the vehicle. We knew the vehicle had blood inside.
Rewind. Zoom in. Play it again. Do you see that?
We saw what we believed to be a gunshot coming from inside the vehicle, with our suspect shooting our victim.
Switch back to the Lewis Street camera.
You see Jorge Rodriguez. You see him confused, dazed, going northbound onto Lewis Street in the middle of the roadway.
Rewind. Can you switch to the second camera, please? Rewind it.
The suspect goes back into the vehicle, attempts to drive off in the vehicle. The wheels of the vehicle were not touching the ground, so therefore the vehicle was not able to move. He exits the vehicle again and travels northbound.
Switch back to the first camera. Play it again.
The suspect ultimately crossed the street directly across from the Los Pinos, and eventually it goes into the darkness. So you lose exactly the direction of travel.
Play it again.
Romero searches for the clearest view of the suspect.
You see our offender come around along the restaurant.
Is it there?
He looks directly into the camera. Our suspect was a Hispanic male. He was shorter, stocky build. He was probably late teens, early 20s. We noticed that he did place his hands in front of his pants, which is an indicator that he had something there that he was trying to retain. More likely not, it was probably the weapon used in the crime.
The shell casings that were recovered were not very common. This was a .32 caliber weapon.
From the video and having the close-up on our suspect and releasing the picture, we are hoping that this individual has some sort of dealings with other law enforcement agencies in the area, at which case he would be identified.
The family of Jorge Rodriguez gather at the hospital.
The doctor told us that they had put him in an induced coma. It was horrible. I had never seen him like that. My dad was always so strong and alive. Just to see him lay there like that just broke my heart.
It was just like a numb feeling. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to feel.
I just remember like crying on my mom's shoulder. Like, what if he dies? What are we gonna do?
They just kept telling me, we can hope for the best, but we can't really make you any promises.
Detective Romero explores the idea that as the killer was in the car, he may have known Jorge.
Do you recognize this man at all?
It's really important to talk to the family because you get background information.
Did your dad have any enemies?
You get to know whether they have any problems with anybody.
I told him, no, I don't think anyone would want to hurt my dad. My dad was so nice to everybody that I couldn't even imagine that.
But he did have some money issues.
She did mention that Jorge did owe money to people. That was concerning to us. Because at that point, we were thinking, well, maybe one of those people might have been the ones that did him harm.
The following morning, investigators find a name of interest.
We looked at Jorge's phone, and we could see there was quite a few calls made to a person he had in his contacts as Gordo. That made a high priority for us, thinking that this is the person that committed this crime. We need to locate Gordo to see if his appearance matched what we had on our video footage.
Hi, I'm Detective Romero, Pasco PD.
His appearance was different to the suspect.
Can you tell me what's your relationship with Mr. Rodriguez?
It's not him. It was determined that Gordo had no part in the crime. So we went back to the security cameras to possibly develop leads in that way.
Detective Romero returns to retrace the suspect's escape route.
From the video, we knew that he ran northbound away from Los Pinos restaurant. Where our victim was going westbound, our suspect fled northbound.
Further CCTV might help track the suspect.
We're looking at other video security cameras from other businesses.
He finds a camera pointing to an alley north of the crash site.
We're trying to see the path in general that he took away from the crime scene so we can better explain his actions after committing the crime.
Romero scans the footage from the time of the crash.
Maybe he left a vehicle nearby that we might be able to track. Sometimes you'll even have a better image of the individual as well.
Where is he?
As we watch, you don't actually see him.
I feel like we lost him. Let's go back to before the crash.
Romero checks the footage in the lead-up to the shooting.
Freeze it there.
And then you see our suspect.
Freeze it there. Can you replay it?
The person was traveling eastbound, wearing tennis shoes, khaki pants, a white t-shirt.
walking with the same mannerisms as observed on those other video footages.
That looks like him.
We were able to locate where he was at before he actually committed the crime.
Where's he going?
Investigators were going through the various businesses and trying to retrace steps of a likely path of travel.
We were able to locate a video camera from Accounting Solutions. We also noticed another camera that was pointing in a south direction away from the business. We're trying to see if we can get a clear shot of his face that would be easier for us to identify.
Romero cues the footage up to half an hour before the crash.
Come on. There you are.
You can clearly identify our suspect is wearing the same clothing in much better detail than Los Pinos. But we weren't able to get a clear shot of his face.
Romero cues up the footage from the second camera.
In the Accounting Solutions video, you see our suspect approach that vehicle.
This particular vehicle looked to be like a large truck or some SUV type of vehicle. The individual goes right up to the driver's side door.
He's trying to steal a car.
For whatever reason, he doesn't seem to pursue it. And he continued to walk away from that vehicle. And we lose coverage from that camera angle.
It was not the same type of vehicle as Jorge's vehicle,
but it was a similar vehicle.
he was looking basically to carjack somebody.
With Jorge in a medically induced coma, doctors are still unsure if he'll survive.
Not knowing just made me feel helpless. And at the time, I felt like I had to be strong for my mom. Because she kept asking me what's happening, is he okay? And I'm like, they're not telling me anything. And I remember her telling me, don't lie to me. You know, like, I'm not. You know, it was really hard.
Now that Detective Romero suspects the crime was a carjack, he focuses on where the attacker could have made his move.
Inside the vehicle was also a grocery bag from Fiesta Foods. with items that were recently purchased by Jorge, which coincide with what Darlene had told us with him being at Fiesta Foods earlier in the night. Knowing that most stores have really good video systems, we were hoping that we were going to be able to determine whether he was alone or not.
Romero heads to Fiesta Foods. If the attacker did target Jorge here, the internal cameras could be the best chance of an identifiable image.
Okay. Can you start from 10 p.m., please? There he is. Play it again.
You see Jorge at the counter purchasing the items. He paid cash. Everything seemed normal. There was no signs of any fear. He did have a brief conversation with the cashier.
He did not appear to be in distress. He did not appear to be looking around as if someone was following him.
It looked like Jorge was there alone.
Can you show me the other camera angle? Freeze it. There he is.
He's pacing back and forth, kind of keeping an eye on people.
Freeze it.
He appears to be looking for a target.
That was all at the same time when Jorge was at the register. We really needed to get this person identified. As days go by after the actual crime, the chance of recovering any usable evidence from that crime diminishes with the expiration of each day.
Zoom in.
The footage is clear, but the overhead angle means the suspect's face is still hidden.
The camera was just not placed correctly to where we would have been able to see the suspect complete. It was definitely frustrating. We always wanted to get justice for our victims. We want to prevent him from doing any further crimes or hurting anybody else.
Wait, look. What's that on his t-shirt?
We saw the insignia on our suspect's t-shirt. We were able to identify that logo as the Dallas Cowboys.
Two days after releasing the CCTV image of the suspect, police finally get a breakthrough.
Yep.
Romero, check your email.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
We received a tip from an anonymous source.
This person identified the suspect. So that began the process of law enforcement narrowing their focus on this particular person, Pedro Cadenas.
Pedro Cadenas, a 17-year-old with a criminal past, already has an active arrest warrant out for a misdemeanor.
We were able to obtain a photograph from Juvenile. We compared the photo that we sent out from the video, and the likeness was strong.
Not only did they provide who they believed the suspect was, but then they provided some key information saying this individual is known to use a .32 caliber pistol.
We had a .32 caliber spent casing at the scene. That was information not provided to the public or anybody else.
By having those shell casings and being able to verify and know that that caliber was a match, that was absolutely critical.
In our estimates, it was one and the same. Now, at this point, we have to locate Pedro.
Yep.
Romero receives information on where Cadenas may be hiding out.
Positive. Thank you.
His girlfriend was living in Sunnyside. We got our crew together. We had to coordinate with the Sunnyside Police Department, the DLC officer that was supervising Pedro, and our street crimes unit, and we all headed over to begin surveillance.
The team prepares to take Cadenas down as soon as he surfaces.
Go, go, go. Go. Go, go, go. Go.
Hands on your head. Hands on your head. Keep coming. Keep coming. Stop. On your knees. On your knees.
He gave no resistance. There was a sense of relief. Once Pedro was arrested, he was taken over to the Sunnyside Police Department.
Investigators asked Cadenas where he was on the night of the murder.
I wasn't even in Pasco that night.
We have a video that shows you where.
Although he matched the description of the person on video, his appearance was slightly different. He invoked his Miranda rights. Therefore, I was not able to continue my interview with them.
Police are now in a race against time.
At this point, we're under a time crunch to develop probable cause. We only had 24 hours.
Without more evidence, Cadenas could go free.
It was going to be crucial to have the details necessary for us to be able to charge Pedro. His likelihood of fleeing the area would be great if he was released.
Detectives convince another individual who knows Pedro Cadenas to talk anonymously.
You give us the details about Pedro's actions on the 4th of July, and we can help you.
I still think there was a sense of apprehension. They knew he had criminal history.
They confirmed that Pedro was at a party in Pasco and that Pedro had left the party and later had returned bloodied. They provided his clothing description that he was wearing the day of the incident. They told us that it was a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt that he was wearing, matching up with security video. At that moment, I knew that we had Pedro. We still had to do additional interviews and follow-up, but we had enough to charge Pedro with the crime of assault first degree.
At the hospital, Jorge Rodriguez clings to life.
Every couple hours, they would come and check his brain activity. And that's when they told me, he's not waking up.
The activity in his brain was just getting lower and lower, so that's when I thought, like, yeah, it's just probably his time.
Me and my mom, we just made sure to hold his hand and just like rub his arm, make him feel comfortable. Like, we'll be okay. My mom's gonna take care of me and my sisters.
Three weeks after the shooting, Jorge Rodriguez succumbs to his injuries.
We amended the charges to eventually charge Pedro Cadenas with murder in the first degree, not attempted murder.
In court, Cadenas continues to deny that he was the shooter. But the multiple sightings of him on CCTV and confidential witness testimony is enough to convince jurors that he was inside Jorge's vehicle. Pedro Cadenas is sentenced to 36 years and 2 months for first-degree murder and attempted theft of a motor vehicle. The security footage lays bare the full tragic events of that night.
Pedro was looking basically to carjack somebody. He was looking for a target. The fact that Jorge paid in cash at Fiesta Foods with a large dollar bill, the fact that he's also driving a fancy car, that made the right person for Pedro to target.
Who the hell are you? Shut up, shut up.
As he's leaving Fiesta Foods, he entered Jorge's vehicle.
Leave me alone, I got nothing here, man. Shut up.
As Jorge is driving westbound on Lewis Street, an argument ensues.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Which causes Jorge to lose control of his vehicle. Moments later, Pedro freaks out for whatever reason, shooting Jorge. Then he fled the scene.
It was the video coverage that allowed us to show the jury the callousness of the crime, to show that this individual premeditated this. And he ultimately found the car that Jorge was driving that night to be the type of car that he liked, the type of car that he wanted. We asked for a fairly high sentence because just the callousness of doing this crime solely to want to take this person's vehicle, it was a horrific crime.
I don't think he was remorseful at all. We would have had our dad if it wasn't for his decisions.
It's hard to believe he's not here anymore.
I don't forget it. When the 4th of July comes, I try to have fun, you know. I try to go out and just do regular 4th of July things, but it's just always at the top of my head.
He was the type of person where he would have $1 and he would literally just give you 99 cents out of it. He would always tell me, like, look after your sisters. And that's really what we've been doing.
My dad never missed a chance to tell me how beautiful I was, or like how proud of, how proud he was of me. I wish I would have told him the same.
In a cruel twist of fate, tragedy soon hits Darlene and her sisters again.
My mom, she had pancreatic cancer. She's literally dying from it. And we were too focused on, what Pedro did to my dad that we didn't have time to focus on my mom.
Just 15 months after Cadenas murdered Jorge, the girls lose their mother too.
I do blame him for it. I blame him because if we weren't going through all of this with my dad, we could have caught her cancer sooner. She might still be here. This whole situation makes me feel cold-hearted sometimes because I feel nothing for this man.
Before losing her mother, Darlene gave birth to a baby girl. She would have been Jorge's first granddaughter.
He would have been a great grandfather. She asks about them all the time. And I tell her that they live up in the clouds. So whenever she sees the moon or the clouds, she's like, oh, that's Grandma and Grandpa. It does make me sad because I always imagine how it would have been, and I bet you my daughter would be with him every day.